Hello and welcome to your very first Foundations and Formations of Government video. Throughout the course of this video, we're going to be looking at some terms and how they are defined in government, and also some different theories about how government came to be. So our essential questions, which is this slide, is never anything you have to write down. These are just guiding questions that we will follow throughout this unit. So today we're going to figure out what government is and why we need it. So in introduction, we've got some important terms that we've got to iron out first. And just a quick word of advice, I would not write every single thing down on the slide right now. I would write it or type it as I talk about it. That way you don't have really gaping holes, or you don't have like a whole bunch of stuff crammed into one thing, okay? So the first term we want to talk about is state, okay? So if we have a state, if we're thinking of a state, the first thing that pops into your mind is probably what? Probably Missouri, right? So Missouri, in our mind, is a state. In government speak, a state actually has three characteristics. First, it occupies a definite territory. So basically, you can find it on a map, okay? The second thing that it is that it has an organized government. So there's a government that is in charge of the state. And the third characteristic is that it can make and enforce laws without approval from a higher authority, okay? So by those three characteristics, think about for a second, is Missouri a state? And if Missouri is not a state, what could be a state? So a state, by our definition here, is a country, right? Whenever we're talking about the United States, it occupies a definite territory, it has an organized government, and it has the power to make and enforce laws without a higher power. So then you ask, what about Missouri? Can't Missouri do that? Well, can Missouri pass any law they want to? No, Missouri can't do whatever they want because Missouri's laws have to be in accordance with the federal Constitution, okay? Next, we've got a nation, and a nation is a sizable group of people who share common bonds like race, language, religion, culture, traditions, okay? So with that, I want you to think about whether or not the United States is a nation, and we'll talk about that in class, okay? This next term is a consensus. Now, it's not a census, which is a population count. We'll talk about that in a couple of units. But a consensus is an agreement among most people. So the consensus is, in the United States, that our system of government works, okay? If we did not have a consensus, then our government would not be legitimate and it wouldn't be able to do its thing, okay? Sovereignty is another term. This term sovereignty, whenever I think about it, I think of a sovereign ruler, like someone who's wearing a crown, okay? So sovereignty refers to having authority within your boundaries, okay? So I am sovereign in my classroom. I am the sovereign leader, kind of, sort of, okay? And the last thing is government. So what is government? We're going to come up with a good definition as a class, but government basically is responsible for providing public services, providing protection, and maintaining order. And we're going to talk about how we do all of those things. So with that, I'm going to stop with this video. If you have any questions, please let me know. See ya.